Hey, this is Kevin Kelly. Get ready for the latest episode of the Stardom Cast.
This is Jesse from Club Venus from Stardom, and you're watching Stardom Cast.
Hello guys and welcome to the Stardom Cast, your weekly audio source of all things World Wonder Ring Stardom. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin. I'm joined as ever by the man who is going to meet Mercedes Moné. It's Matt Turner. Matt Turner, are you excited as we sit on the eve of you going to New York Comic Con?
Absolutely, brother. Yes, as we're recording this is on Wednesday. I leave around, I told Andy Header to be at my house at 7 o'clock, which means he'll probably pop up around 7:30, quarter to 8. At least he's consistent. So, yes, so I will be leaving for New York Comic Con Thursday morning. If any of our fantastic listeners, the friends and family of the Stardom Cast, are going to any of the days at New York Comic Con, hit me up. We will meet up somewhere. And if you are of age, you know the deal, folks. I will buy you an adult beverage. If you're not of age, we'll share a juice or a Yoo-Hoo or whatever non-alcoholic beverage that you like. But yes, I'll be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, like I said, if anybody is going, hit me up and we'll meet up somewhere. And keep an eye posted on my social media because you always see the craziest cosplays, the best cosplays, excuse me, at New York Comic Con. Last year, a buddy of mine, a friend of mine, Carol, she went as Tony Storm. And then she said next year, meaning this year, she was going to go as Bull Nakano. Now, Rob, I have not talked to her in a few months, to be honest with you. So I'm not sure if she's still going as Bull Nakano, but if you do see me with the picture of one Bull Nakano, that is her cosplay. So, yeah, it should be exciting and intriguing. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Yes, and I will be meeting one Mercedes Moné. And yes, of course, I will be pitching her to get her on the Stardom Cast podcast. Because like I always say, brother, if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Absolutely. It's a mantra that I've adopted from you, which I'm eternally grateful for. But what I do thoroughly appreciate is that both your tag partners, Andy Header, your tag partner as part of Blue and Gold, and me, your tag partner on the Stardom Cast, we have that one similarity in that we are both always late. So I don't know what it is about you and you picking people that just have terrible timekeeping, but, what can we say? We're the best people.
Absolutely. My daughter's worse than the two of you. She's always, literally to the point where it's like, if we need to leave at 1 o'clock, we tell her to be ready by 12:30. So that's just how it goes, my friend. You have to know the team that you have. You have to play the hand that you're dealt, and that's A-okay because you guys are all fantastic. You, Andy, and my daughter are all phenomenal people. One of the reasons why I'm so goddamn positive all the time, brother.
Well, I mean, there are worse things in the world, aren't there? It does make me laugh that you've said that about your daughter, because I get that all the time. Both me and Kirsty are terrible timekeepers, which I have an excuse for. I think I've sort of spread it onto Kirsty. But my parents, if we ever go out for a meal or, we were waiting for the taxi in Croatia, they will deliberately tell me half an hour beforehand and then tell my brother the actual time because my brother will turn up on time. But he will still always get there before me, despite the fact that I have been told half an hour earlier. It is a running joke in our family how poor our timekeeping is between me and Kirsty. So I thoroughly empathize with Lily. I can completely understand that. Now, before we delve into the Patreon stuff, the absolute litany of news that dropped on Tuesday as a part of the Stardom and New Japan joint strategy presentation, which gave us a few nuggets of information. obviously talking about your New York Comic Con, and obviously the main event of seeing both Mercedes Moné and trying to square up to Chris Evans, which we talked about on the Patreon yesterday. Don't do it, man. Don't do it. Who else are you lined up to see? And have you had any confirmation as to whether Jamie Hayter is actually going to be there?
I don't think she is. I don't think she's. I think her, Adam Cole. I know Adam Cole canceled because of the foot injury, and he's having surgery if he hasn't had it yet, probably this week. So he's canceled. I think with Jamie Hayter, just with the shoulder injury and her trying to rehab, rather than taking 3 or 4 days away from her rehab to go to do New York Comic Con, I think that's why she's out. I did Google Jamie Hayter New York Comic Con. Only one website still had her listed, but the actual New York Comic Con website and the app, they do not have her listed at all. So I don't know if she'll be there. However, FTR will be there, and me and Andy Head are definitely getting a group photo and maybe doing like a square off thing, like FTR versus Blue and Gold, something like that. So there's that, and I believe Jeff Johns, who basically runs DC Comics, his Green Lantern run back in the early 2000s is what got me back into comics. And I never actually met Jeff Johns, and he's going to be there select dates, select times, sometimes very much like Frank Miller of the Batman fame and The Dark Knight Returns, 1989. Frank Miller's also always at New York Comic Con. He's listed, but you never know when he's going to be there. Even if you go to the table that he's supposed to be at, he may not show up at any of those times. So that's the way Jeff Johns is. And him and then Jason Aaron are basically my last two gets of modern day comic book writers / creators that I never met before. And Jason Aaron is going to be there as well. Jason Aaron, in my opinion, has written the greatest Thor run of all time. Basically, the last Thor movie, Love and Thunder, which I think is criminally underrated, was based off Jason Aaron's run. He created the Gore, the God Butcher. He created having Jane Foster as the we didn't create it. It was a what if, very much like our what ifs, Rob. It was a what if comic book, I think in the 80s. What if Jane Foster became Thor? And it was just a one shot, and he actually implied it into his run, and it really took off really well. So those are my big gets. Obviously, the Mercedes thing is the number one for me. The number one thing for me, obviously, me being a huge fan of Joshi Wrestling, her being in Stardom and New Japan, this past year, and with her coming back relatively soon, I have a litany of questions that I would like to ask her. But sometimes, Rob, because it's my 11th year doing the con circuit, sometimes you only get that one question in, which is fine. You don't want to hold up the line. And I think me and you all know what that one question I'm going to ask her is. So if I only get one, it's going to be that big one, my man, because then if that one hits, we can ask her all the questions we want, my friend.
Absolutely. And if you don't ask her when is that match with Fukic and Def going to happen, what are you going to ask her then? I jest, of course. I jest, of course.
All right, let me swing it back there, my friend. You want to joke with me? I'll joke with you. I'm going to ask her how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much she enjoys the new Hanan theme. So there you go, brother.
Let's come on. That's hitting a little bit too close to home, Mr. Turner. And before we devolve into violence, which, let's be honest, there's only going to be one winner. You've seen pictures of me. You've seen pictures of Mad. There is only one winner in that fight.
Fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Put us on YouTube. What's going on our Patreon, Mr. Turner?
Mr. Rob Goodwin, this past week, our alternate commentary, we've released Mayu Iwatani taking on Yoshinko from Budokan Hall, All-Star Dream Cinderella. Also, next week, our alternate commentary, we actually just did it yesterday, and I thought we did a fantastic job, sir. We will be releasing Azumi defending the high-speed championship against one Starlight Kid from the Triangle Derby Finals back from March of earlier this year. And our watch along, I think we've officially announced that when we do these bonus non-Stardom matches, they're not going to be alternate commentaries. They're just going to be watch alongs. Our watch along that we watched, boy, this will be released on Sunday. When are we releasing this one, buddy?
This is releasing Sunday morning.
Okay, so the one we're releasing on Sunday morning is going to be from Dream Slam back in the early 90s, Akira Hokuto versus Shinobi Kandora. And again, folks, it is a watch along to the point where it's literally just me and Rob, just two buddies watching awesome wrestling matches and just taking it in and enjoying it and kind of in a relaxed setting. so relaxed setting that I have a beer during this watch long, and not just any beer, Rob Goodwin, the Stardom Cast Craft Brew, brewed with blueberries. I was getting my antioxidants in, as well as some crisp beverages, sir. So that'll all be released in the next few days, and by the time you listen to this, plus or minus a day, the Shuri SWA episode where I review all 10 of her matches from her dominant run as the SWA champion. So yeah, lots of good stuff on the Patreon, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to take a moment just to thank everyone for their support. All our patrons over at patreon.com/StardomCast. Your support is absolutely incredible. Hopefully you are enjoying the content that we are pumping out for you. And thank you for your support. It is truly humbling that we have as much as one patron. So yeah, thank you again. Just on the topic of Patreon, I now have realised, due to people telling me, that we now have adverts in our free feed due to Red Circle putting in adverts. So if, for whatever reason, you are sick of hearing about Frutella, I listened to one the other day that had We Buy Any Car on it. I know that, Matt, what did you have?
DraftKings.
DraftKings.
It is at NFL football season, so a lot of gambling going on. So I get a lot of DraftKings on my feed.
There you go. If you don't want to hear these adverts, then you can subscribe to our Patreon. The lowest tier, which is the New Blood tier, it is $1 a month, and that means you get every episode for literally 25 cents. And you get them a day early, and they are 100% ad-free. So a little bit of a plug there for you as well. So, kicking into the news, I'm going to jump into the joint presentation that Stardom and New Japan did on October 10th in a moment, because, like I said, there was lots and lots of interesting things that they announced. However, I feel like the most important bit of news that has been released is that the Goddess of Stardom Tag League, Matt, is going to be blocks taking on each other. So Red Goddess are going to fight Red Goddess, and Blue Goddess are going to fight Blue Goddess. Hallelujah. Reason has prevailed, Matt.
All is right with the world, good sir. So this way it'll be maybe a little bit easier for us to follow, because we literally just closed one tournament season, and now we're coming up with another one. And yeah, I know a lot of these teams have been bunched around and things have been mixed and matched, but man, I'm really looking forward to this tournament. There's some really, really good teams and some really, really good matchups. So, yeah, it should be interesting. Should be a load of fun, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, that starts this tournament, the Goddess of Stardom Tag League. The opening night is on Sunday as we record the 15th of October. And I'm going to go down that card when we preview the shows at the end of this podcast. But you're absolutely right, considering, in the space of a week, they lost Utami, they lost Starlight Kid, and they lost Natsupoi. It's not great. But they've managed to do what they can. There's still some intriguing matchups there, especially having changed FWC blocks, making them a part of Blue Block rather than Red Block. If you go back to our previous episode, we sort of detail what changes have been made, so go and check that out if you so wish. On the point of Natsupoi, she did say on an Instagram live stream that her neck injury does not require surgery, which is really good. Apparently she's going to be basically just rehabbing it as opposed to surgery. So I think that was Dragon Moon on Twitter that translated that. So thank you to him. Also, it has been, it's sort of, I think it was Sunny on Reddit, or on the message board. I can't remember. Someone did tell me. I think it was Steve on Patreon. Starlight Kid actually injured her ankle at the Dream Tag Festival. So whether it was just aggravated at the New Blood show, I don't know. But yeah, apparently that is where they've traced that injury to. No news on how long it's going to be before Starlight Kid is back, though, which is sad and slightly disappointing. But there we are. Let's talk about this joint strategy presentation then, because there was lots and lots and lots to talk about. Unfortunately, we didn't get any news on a brand new Stardom World app which I'll be honest, I didn't think was going to happen, but there we are. We can all dream. The first thing, though, that was announced was Stardom sales. They showed a graphic that showed Stardom sales from 2019 all the way through to 2023. Obviously omitting 2020 because we all like to think that that year didn't exist because of COVID. But just as an indication of how well Stardom is doing at the moment, in 2019, which was when Bushiroad purchased the company, Stardom sales sat at 200 million yen, which is roughly, according to Google, $1,300,000. So, not bad at all, over $1 million turnover. However, that has grown exponentially. 2021, it sat at 460 million yen. 2022, it then sat at 1 billion yen. And then for 2023, thus far, obviously we're still 2 months out from the end of the year, it currently sits at 1.5 billion yen, which is about 10 million US dollars, which when you put it down into dollars and cents and, try and summarize it, since 2019, Stardom have tenfold expanded their sales, which is pretty damn impressive, Matt Turner.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that they were able to, constantly improving sales, from 2019 up until, present day. And it's going to be interesting to see how they do it in 2024. Obviously, I know that they talked a little bit about their expansion, and I think that they're going to do it as well. I think just between merchandising, and I know they're running, we take a little joke, a little jest that they do run maybe one too many pay-per-views. At the same time, every single pay-per-view, there's never been one that I was like, I did not get my money's worth. Every one, I'm like, I got my money's worth and more. So that definitely helps as well that they're running more shows and more pay-per-views. Obviously, the merchandising, the YouTube, for what I understand, their YouTube channel has more subscribers than New Japan. So I think they're right around 900,000. So I wouldn't be shocked in the next 3 or 4 weeks if they hit the 1 million mark. Obviously, you'll get adverts from, YouTube and whatnot. So they're making money on YouTube, and as well as the service, the Stardom World. It's like $6.25 or something like that, per month, which it's just, for someone that's in sales, Rob, that's the easiest sell in the world. It's like for $6.25, skip Starbucks for one day. And even if Stardom never runs another show again, just their back catalog alone, the G1s, not the G1s, the 5 stars, the All-Star Grand Queendom, the All-Star Dream Cinderella, the year-end climax shows, seeing EO back in, 2016, 17, 18, seeing Kairi in 2016, 2017. It's like, how are you not spending less than $7 a month, less than $2 a week to watch the best wrestling company in the world currently, and then going back to the back catalog, and you can watch Arisa, Momo Watanabe's run. I can be here all day, but yeah, that definitely helps as well. So they're improving, expanding on all aspects of business, which is fantastic because there's no other wrestling company in the world that is growing like that. Really isn't. The fact that they're, in the last 4 years, over 1,000% growth, that's just incredible, in dollars and cents. And one can only hope, Rob, that they come over to the good old United States for a tour, and/or England over by you, brother. And I think they would absolutely smash it. I think they would absolutely crush it, especially in my part of the world where I live in, where you have hardcore, smart wrestling fans. The New York, New Jersey, Baltimore, Philadelphia area, where they're diehard fans. I think if Stardom were to run a show like in the ECW Arena or the Hammerstein Ballroom, I think they would absolutely crush it.
It's funny you should mention that, actually, because they do actually talk about it at the end of this strategy meeting, but more talking about the New Japan aspect. But we'll get to that in a moment, because it sort of links into this next point, which is Stardom's Asia strategy. So on October 21st and 22nd, Stardom will be going to Thailand, and they will be represented at the Bushiroad Expo. Then they will be represented in Singapore at the Bushiroad Expo as well, November 24th to the 26th. And this is the first time that Stardom returns to Asia, or outside of Japan anyway, for the first time since their 2017 show in Taipei, which is really quite cool. And this sort of ties in with what Abari was saying I think it was Obari, was saying at the end of the presentation where he was talking about how America and the UK and Japan make up the top 3 wrestling audiences. And it's a huge drop-off between that and the rest of Asia. And they want to sort of take the responsibility of popularizing wrestling around Asia, and that's why they've built up what I think is called the Pacific Wrestling Alliance, or whatever they're doing at the moment with different companies. There's companies from China, there's companies from Thailand, from Singapore, and they've all sort of come together as this alliance. So it all seems to be pointing towards a bigger presence in wider Asia, Matt, rather than focusing on sort of a wrestling-rich West, shall we say, of the UK and the United States.
Yeah, it sounds like the old school term on that one is they're trying to pop a territory, brother. So let's see what happens. They could pop the Asian territory.
Yeah, I mean, if that's their goal, to sort of popularize wrestling in that area, then obviously there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's an admirable strategy. It's a shame that, you know, we're not going to see Stardom in America, we're not going to see Stardom in the UK, because like you said, the reaction that they are going to get when they do eventually run shows, and I do believe that they will, it's going to be incredible. The reaction that they're going to get is going to be phenomenal. I thoroughly do believe that. Number of Stardom shows then. So as well as the sales going up massively, the amount of shows that Stardom have run have doubled between 2018 and 2023. So in 2018 we ran 70 shows, 2019 74. 2020 is the outlier, obviously with 52, but when so much of the year was taken out by COVID, that's sort of expected. 2021 was 100 shows, 2022 115, and then 2023, again, bearing in mind that we are still 2 months shy of the end of the year, they have already run 141 shows. Now, this is an incredible amount of shows to run in a year. However, it does bring about, especially at the moment when you think the injuries that Stardom are suffering at the moment, it does sort of beg the question, is that enough, or are they going to continue that exponential growth? They've already said in this meeting, actually, that they want to run every prefecture in Japan. There are 47 prefectures in Japan. Stardom have already run shows in 44 of them. The only prefectures I believe that they have not run is Miyazaki, Okinawa, and Oita. So they want to run all of those by 2024. Matt, what I'm asking is, especially after Julia came out and said, we'd like to shorten the 5-star Grand Prix rather than it being a 2-month grind, sort of try and make it a month and a half. And I think she likened it to a Netflix series where she says you don't start the next season before you've started the first. And I think that is an allusion to having, you know, look at Stardom X Stardom that is sat smack dab in the middle of the 5-star Grand Prix for no real reason. And I'm wondering if that is if that's something that they're moving towards. Because if you compare the 5-star Grand Prix and the G1 Climax, every night you've got some undercard tags, and then you've got 5 G1 matches. And you go block A, block B, block A, block B. Obviously, the last couple of years, we've had 4 blocks, but that's the sort of idea. So I wonder if Stardom will eventually move that way, because you've had some shows where Stardom have had 1 5-star Grand Prix match on a card. You know, and it just seems to be stretching it out for... Obviously, they want to run more shows, which, you know, the sales speak for themselves. But obviously, they are doing it, and it is impacting the wrestlers. You can see that the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. And obviously, with Starlight Kid then coming out and saying maybe there is some reform in the 5-star Grand Prix, maybe looking at 4 blocks, I think she said. Do you think that there is scope for change, productive change, whilst still achieving the growth that Stardom wants to achieve?
Absolutely. You just have to find a happy medium. Obviously, those numbers, the bottom line is it's a business, but also you want to take care of the people that are running your business, i.e. the wrestlers. That the wrestlers are your most important asset. Like I understand, Rossi with the booking and people behind the scenes, and Sonny's doing a great job, on Stardom World and the camera work and everything like that. But the most important asset of Stardom are the wrestlers, and they're the ones that are at risk the most. They're constantly in the ring taking bumps, doing press tours, selling the product. So you have to find that happy medium. Again, we have 4 big stars that are out due to injury, and it all happened either at the beginning, the middle, or the end of this fantastic 5-star tournament. And, I know me and you talk off air quite a bit of how phenomenal this tournament was, how much better it would have been if, if one of them only one, if none of them got injured. But again, they're moving the needle in every aspect, and obviously the bottom line is dollars. So you don't want to run it back. You don't want to cool it off so much that you'll have a negative compared to in 2024 than 2023. But at the same time, you don't want to push the envelope so much that then it's a Julia that's hurt, or that's a Micah that's hurt, or, even Aya Sakurai. She's another one, even though she wasn't in the 5-star rookie. She's been hurt, the past couple months based on just the brutal schedule. So it's something that you're going to have to find a happy medium. And everybody's going to get injured. You're never going to have, whether they run 100 shows or 200 shows, somebody's going to get hurt. It happens in the NFL all the time. It happens in European football all the time. Baseball, the NBA, it happens all the time. You have superior athletes going at it 110% each and every night, and injuries are about to happen. And Rob, you know better than anybody, you can get injured doing anything, like going up your stairs, So
it was down the stairs. It was down the stairs, all right. Let's have enough of that, Turner.
And the mortal words of Gorilla Monsoon. Oh, excuse me. But anyway, as far as reforming the blocks from the 5-star, I guess you can do that. I do like the 2 blocks. So this way you have more matches, between the 2. I do not like this New Japan with the 4 blocks. To be honest with you, I've pretty much seen every G1 match from like 2015 up until when they split the blocks up into 4, because I just did not keep my interest at all. I just thought there was too many missed opportunity matches. But I do like the idea of having shows where you have a majority of the 5-star matches on there. So this way you can get this tournament done in like 5 or 6 weeks. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, this was the first year where they didn't have Saturday, Sunday back-to-back 5-star nights. I know they did it in 2021 and 2022. And I would like for them to go back to that format, because then it's like 5-star weekend. It's like a whole celebration of, whether you do it on a Friday or Saturday, or a Saturday and Sunday. And then you kind of get through 10, 11 5-star matches all in one weekend. You can get a big chunk of that schedule done all in one weekend. And then you kind of set the table of like, this is what the tournament's going to be. And then maybe, the girls take a week off, and then maybe they just run a Sunday show where it's like 8 matches, 5 of them are 5-star matches, and 3 of them are, mixed tag. And then, you go back to that format running either Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or, 2 or 3 of the dates where you're doing 8 matches, 4 or 5 of them are 5 stars, 3 or 4 of them are, undercard, tag matches. And then this way, you can get the tournament done. And then, you get the tournament done in 5-6 weeks. And, you're getting, this way, it's not this exhausting, long, grinding tournament. But yeah, I know when we were doing some of the previews, the past few weeks of the shows that were coming up, we're like, man, there's 3 shows this weekend, and there's only 4 5-star matches on. Kind of just seems like kind of a, I load the deck, and this way it's, you boost your ticket sales, you boost the YouTube, and you boost the Stardom World subscriptions. That would be my business strategy, sir. And my other business strategy is do an American tour. That's what, whenever somebody asked me, was like, hey, if you could say anything to Stardom, what would it be? I'm like, do an American tour. These people that we are these people, us Americans. We are dying. They are dying. The people that don't watch Stardom are dying for some phenomenal women's wrestling. And don't get me wrong, there's some really good stuff in Impact, AEW, WWE, but there is nothing going on like that they're doing in Stardom. And I think they would absolutely crush it over here.
Yeah, absolutely. For what it's worth, I prefer the 2-block system. It's just, what I was raised on. And similarly to you, I find the 4-block system far harder to follow, and it does struggle to keep my attention for that reason. I think just rejigging where you're putting pay-per-views as well. Like, fair enough, make the opening night a pay-per-view, make the final night a pay-per-view. That's absolutely fine. But having random shows in the middle, like a Stardom X Stardom, it doesn't need to happen. If you've got a tournament, focus on the tournament. Because the 5-star this year has been great. The 5-star last year was great. The 5-star in 2021 was great. No one is complaining. Do you know what? I'm missing a red belt match. No one's thinking that because they're all focused on the tournament. And I think if you pour your focus onto the tournament and focus on that rather than, a New Blood, a pay-per-view, and then 2 nights in the middle of the week where you've got 1 and 2 matches on the card. I mean, you looked at we did our preview and I did the graphics of people's calendars. Like, Natsuko Tora had completed all her matches by something ridiculous like the 6th of September and then didn't wrestle again in the tournament till the final. And obviously I know that there's, Julia going to do the Impact stuff sort of messed the schedule up a little bit, Sai Kamatani getting injured and things. But I think if you have a concrete schedule, you concentrate on the tournament rather than the pay-per-view, then I think that will help. And I think as well, we don't need 26 wrestlers in the 5-star Grand Prix. I know we made a joke last year about there being 485 people spread across 2 blocks, which it seemed that was where Stardom was heading, but I do like this 10-woman block. It does make it feel like more of an elite tournament. Moving on, talking about elite, obviously Wrestle Kingdom is on the horizon at the Tokyo Dome. And of course, with Stardom having absolutely no New Japan titles on their roster at all. None at all whatsoever. None at all.
Oh, wait a minute. I think you're wrong.
Well, Stardom are not going to be appearing on the Tokyo Dome show. It was announced that rather than have Stardom appear at Wrestle Kingdom 18, because, of course, if Stardom appeared, we are cutting into valuable House of Torture time. They are going to run their own show. So on the 4th of January, Stardom are going to run a show at the Tokyo Dome City Hall. The main event of that show will be an IWGP Women's title match. So no Stardom participation at the Tokyo Dome. I think after the debacle of last year, I know loads of people have said, oh, well, what's the point in having this IWGP Women's Championship? It's a point that I've advocated for a long time. I think it's clear that this was born without New Japan actually wanting it, and they made that abundantly clear by giving the match 5 minutes at Wrestle Kingdom 17, and it was primarily used as a platform to get over Mercedes Moné's debut, which was great. However, with running your own show that runs straight into Wrestle Kingdom, Stardom have announced that this show, I think, airs at noon in Japanese time. So you'll have plenty of time to see this and Wrestle Kingdom. I just think it's been a bit of a faff, to be perfectly honest. This IWGP Women's Championship, it really has. Like, ultimately, what was the point? What really was the point in creating it? The New Japan Women's Strong Championship. I've seen people say that it's easier to book. Literally, it did not need to be created. You needed 1 women's championship. You did not need 2 at all. And now what you've got is a joke championship. I know I'm being harsh on it, and it's no one in Stardom's fault. But you've got the joke championship in the IWGP Women's title, which has been defended by Mayu once in something like 180 days. I know she's defending it in America. And then you've got the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, which seems to exist primarily so that we can get to the Julia and Mercedes Moné match that we also desperately want. It just seems that we have gone all the way around the houses to try and get to this point. I'm not necessarily opposed to Stardom not being on the Tokyo Dome shows, because if they're not going to be given a prevalent spot, I'd rather them have their own show. if I'm being perfectly honest. If the 5 minutes that Kairi and Tam got at 17 was any indication of where it's going to be, I'd much rather just see them have their own show. And if it's going to be Mayu who's holding that championship on the 4th of January, have Mayu at the top of the card in a fantastic 20-minute singles match. No one is going to complain at the fact that there's no, second from the bottom card match on the Wrestle Kingdom card, Matt.
Yeah, Rob, I don't mean to put you on the spot, and so if you don't know the answer, that's A-OK. But this A-OK, not A-L-K. This
Nice.
Tokyo Dome City Hall venue. Do you know how many people that this place can hold?
I've got a feeling. Ooh.
Tonight's gonna be a good night.
There you go. There you go.
Dun, dun, dun.
I've got a feeling it's around 300, 400 people.
Okay, so it's not like this huge, like 2,000 seat venue.
Not to my knowledge. I could be completely wrong. That is literally off the top of my head. I'm relying solely on someone like Velkage or Armani or Steve or anybody that listens to
Darren.
Yeah, Darren to correct me. But yeah, it's nothing compared to the Tokyo Dome. But again, if Stardom wrestlers aren't going to be used, then I'm not bothered about them not appearing. And obviously when we get to our big announcement that came at the end of this strategy meeting, I ultimately don't think it matters.
Yeah, I think that the reason why I was asking is they made mention that, and you pointed out, brother, that the main event is going to be for the IWGP Women's Championship. We all assume it's going to be Mayu. Mayu played it off. It's like, well, I got a couple title defenses, hard defenses, so it may not be me. I figured this was a venue where they're going to try to sell, 1,500 tickets. And I know Dream Kingdom's the week before, but they have the talent and the story enough where they can kind of load both cards. And my whole thing was, yes, it sucks that we're not going to see Stardom on the Tokyo Dome, but silver lining, let's look at the positive of it. Would you rather a 4 or 5 minute Mayu match versus, whoever, and not get the time very much like Tam and Kairi from, earlier this year? And then the previous year, we had the MK Sisters versus Tam and Saya Kamatani. That match got, I think, closer to 10. But but at the same time, it's like you could have shaved off 30 seconds on some of the other matches and given it to the Stardom girls because they absolutely crushed and stole the show. So yeah, they really just don't seem like they care about putting any time and effort into Stardom. But at the same time, Mr. Rob Goodwin, January 4th, depending on what that undercard looks like, a very good possibility that Stardom has the best wrestling show on that card. And that's not a slight at all to New Japan. It really isn't. It's just that's my high opinion on Stardom. Obviously, we have Sonata and Naito on as the main event, which will be a really, really good match. Don't get me wrong. There's so many other matchups in Stardom that I think that'll absolutely blow that out of the water. I think that, I know this isn't the New Japan cast, but I strongly believe that they're going to do Okada versus Danielson at the Tokyo Dome just because they don't have anything to do for Okada, and Okada needs to get his win back from Forbidden Door. So I think that, that will kind of help them have the, quote unquote better show. But I'll tell you what, my friend, depending on if the Stardom one's on pay-per-view or not, I'm definitely going to be watching both shows. And if Stardom does have the better show, you folks on Twitter, you're going to hear about it because I'll be like, see, I told you so. You guys, you did not want to put them in the Tokyo Dome. Fine, they're going to put on their own show and they're going to blow out one of the biggest wrestling shows of the year. I firmly believe that's going to happen, my friend.
Quite possibly, and obviously we'll see. Obviously, the only match announced at the moment for the Tokyo Dome is Sonata versus Tetsuya Naito. I'd be amazed if they don't run Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. back for the TV title at the Tokyo Dome, especially so that Zack can get his win back and give Danielson that one match in the Tokyo Dome. Before he runs out his career. Also announced, we've got 3 more announcements. The first of which is the April 27th, 2024. We know that Stardom always does a big show in March, April time, and this year is no different. All-Star Grand Queendom 2024. The name is returning, which is an absolute blessing. But it's in a new venue, the Yokohama Buntai. Now, this used to be the Yokohama Bunker Gymnasium, I believe, and it was shut down and has been sort of rebuilt or redone. This will be the first wrestling show at that venue anyway. So, again, some what's the word I'm looking for? Uniformity with these pay-per-views, which is great. I love the fact that we're getting, these staples. If we can keep All-Star Grand Queendom around March, April, if we can keep Dream Queendom at the end of the year, we've got those 2 tentpole events. We've obviously got the 5-star. I just like uniformity, Matt. I like it when pay-per-views are named the same thing. Like your Wrestle Kingdom, like your Dominion, like your King of Pro Wrestling, and so on and so forth. But
yeah, like your Led Zeppelin 1, 2, 3, and 4, brother. Your countrymen's over there.
Absolutely, Led Zeppelin 1, Led Zeppelin 2, and then you move into Houses of the Holy, which is its whole other thing, which we don't really talk about. Mayu Iwatani's Runaway Wrestler movie comes out in Japan in May 2024. What I'm hoping, and this is a big hope. Obviously, I know they did a Tanahashi documentary, which they then put subtitles on and aired on New Japan World. I would love if you get the option somewhere, whether it is on Stardom World or whatever. I don't mind, pay the money for it if they can put subtitles on the Mayu Iwatani Runaway Wrestler film, because I'd love to watch in depth that story. Because as I mentioned with when we went off air actually with Jessie, when she asked us who in the women's wrestling game who was the most inspirational, I said Mayu, because of her backstory and the way she deals with issues and things like that. I'd love to see that and understand what is going on. So fingers crossed we get some manner of subtitled version of The Runaway Wrestler. But it comes out in Japan in May of 2024. Again, no idea if it's getting English overdubs or anything like that. And obviously, Matt, the main event of this was the fact that Historic Crossover 2 Electric Boogaloo will be coming in 2024. No specific date, but after the success of Historic Crossover 1, the crowning of the IWGP Women's Championship with that fantastic match between Mayu and Kairi, the excellent chemistry between some of the mixed teams, Maika and Hiroshi Tanahashi, Tanner just proper going at it, like completely seemingly forgetting the mixed tag rules, which was great. The Zack Sabre Julia, Syuri and Tom Lawler tag was great. Obviously, you had Tam and Natsupoi and Kanemaru and Taichi versus Starlight Kid and Momo, and that match was really, really good as well. I think because of the success of that show, you'd be stupid not to do it again. And I think if you're going to focus your New Japan and Stardom relationship on this show and make this, a semi-regular thing, whether it's a yearly thing or every other year, if you're focusing your efforts on that, Stardom don't need to appear at Wrestle Kingdom. It's not like New Japan are severing ties with Stardom. They've got their own championships. It's not like not defending the IWGP Women's Championship is a huge issue. It can come out for shows like this, which I'm sure it will. But ultimately, I'm really, really looking forward to this because honestly, I think both companies did a fantastic job the first time round, Matt.
Yeah, I think they drew something like 7,000 people, and they put Kairi and Mayu on top, which was a pump fake on what they were going to do with this title belt. But we talked about that enough in the past, my brother.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. It's going to be. Yeah, I thought it would be a yearly thing, and just maybe just for how many shows New Japan's been running, how many shows Stardom's been running. Maybe just wasn't in the cards to do another one this fall, because I believe it happened in November of last year. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. Yeah, nothing was really announced, but they did tease and they did make mention that both Stardom and New Japan want to do the tag team of the Ace and the Icon, meaning Hiroshi Tanahashi, teaming with Mayu. So I will be super thrilled if that match does happen. And at the end of that match, if the Ace and the Icon, whoever they wrestle, go over and get the win, how the air guitar playing between the two is going to go, because that might be worth the price of admission alone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really good stuff. But just kind of piggyback off what you were talking about with Mayu in her movie. It's really cool to see a lot of wrestlers now being on the silver screen, or like their biopics being on the silver screen. About a half an hour before we jumped in the Discord and to record this, they released the trailer for the Iron Claw movie, which is based on the Von Erichs. So, and that looks absolutely fantastic. If you've not seen that yet, I could almost guarantee you did not see that yet, brother, because you told me how insanely busy your day was. But after you get off the podcast, if you have 2 minutes, definitely check out the trailer for the Iron Claw movie. Comes out this Christmas. Yeah, not a sponsor of the show. Should be. But yeah, so it's nice to see these wrestlers are going to be on the silver screen, just putting professional wrestling as a whole in a bigger light.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen a still from the trailer with obviously Zac Efron looking incredibly jacked. But that's all I've seen. So I'll definitely check out the trailer. I have seen that it's on Twitter, so I'll make a point of checking that out before I go to football. Let's kick into these two shows that we are reviewing. Then we're going to be looking at the show from Korakuen from October 1st, and then we're also going to be looking at Stardom's latest pay-per-view effort, which was Stardom Nagoya Golden Fight from the 9th of October. So we'll start with the Korakuen show, and the results were as follows. Again, Matt, it's a multi-woman match. You know this. So what's going to happen? Fukigen Death is going to win. So Fukigen Death defeated Hanako, Hina, and Saya Ida, pinning Hanako with the O'Connor roll. In a tag team match, the Cosmic Angels team not the Cosmic Angels team, that's blasphemy, the Club Venus team of Mina Shirakawa and Waka Tsukiyama defeated the Queen's Quest team of Miyu Amasaki and Lady C. Mina getting the win over Miyu with the implant DDT in 8 minutes and 15 seconds. We then had a 6-woman tag match with the team of Suzu Suzuki, Mei Seira, and Megan Bain, defeating the team of Saki Kashima, Mirai, and Syuri. Suzu Suzuki getting the pinfall over Saki with the Grand Maestro de Tequila in 9 minutes and 7 seconds. We then had a 6-woman tag. The Donna Del Mondo team, of Mei Sakurai, Tekla, and Maika, defeating the Stars team of Hazuki, Koguma, and Hanan. Maika pinning Hanan in 10 minutes and 32 seconds with the Michinoku Driver 2. In what will be a prelude to the red belt match at the pay-per-view, the Ueda Tai team of Momo Watanabe, Rina Ruaka, and Natsuka Tora defeated the team of Saori Anou, Yuna Mizumori, Tam Nakano, and Natsupoi, with Natsuka Tora getting the pin with the Death Valley Bomb on Yuna Mizumori in 11 minutes and 19 seconds. We then had, very, very bizarrely, the special 10th anniversary singles match for Azumi taking on Mayu Iwatani, which they had to restart. So it started, and then there was a double count out after 2 minutes. They sort of protested and agreed to restart the match, and Mayu came out victorious, defeating Azumi with her own move in 12 minutes and 10 seconds, pinning her with the Azumi Sushi. And then in your main event, you had a New Japan Strong Women's Championship match. The champion, Julia, defending successfully for the 4th time, defeating the challenger, Ami Sourei, in 17 minutes and 34 seconds with the Northern Lights Bomb. First thing I want to say, Matt, just looking at this attendance, which I didn't announce at the start, which I usually do, 902 people, which is significantly down from the full houses Stardom have been pulling in to Korakuen Hall. Do you think it's just a case of it's coming right off the back of the 5-star and people are a little bit burnt out? Do you think it's just a case of too many shows? Or do you think it's just a little blip and the next time they run Korakuen, they're going to get a relatively full house again?
I think a little bit of all three. Not only that, but you don't have, we all love Azumi, but you don't have a big championship match on Korakuen or a big, Mayu versus Tam, from the 5-star that absolutely filled that building. I think it's just a combination of all three. Yeah, I was shocked because I was looking at the card. I'm like, okay, it looks like a really good card. Obviously, Julia versus Ami Sourei is going to put butts in seats, and Azumi versus Mayu is going to do the same thing as well. And yeah, when I was watching the show, I'm like, there's a lot more empty seats than normal. I think, you're looking at, they've been drawing 1,300 and 1,400. So you're missing about 400 or 500 filled seats there. Regardless, 902 people in Korakuen Hall, still not a bad number. Yeah, it could be a combination. It was kind of just all three. I think maybe if they would have put maybe a Wonder Championship match on there and added this, I think they probably could have drawn a few more 100 tickets. But regardless, the whole undercard was really good. But we got some really cool angles with some of these mystery attackers. These last two matches, brother, holy jeez, they were definitely must see.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about these matches then. So we'll start from... So, there was a lot going on. Obviously, we had 2 run-ins from people dressed in black robes and clown masks, and much as I would like to think that it was just Fukik and Death messing around, there was a lot that attacked Mayu. So at the closing night of the 5-Star Grand Prix the night before, Mayu had put out a challenge to all comers for the IWGP Women's Championship, acknowledging the fact that she hadn't been defending it as much as she wanted. So she said, anyone, you can come and you can bring your best. So Mayu gets the victory over Izumi. Fantastic match. We'll talk about it in a moment. And then was attacked by a whole litany of people in masks. The same happened to Mirai after the match against Megan Bay, Mei Seira, and Suzu Suzuki. After their match, Mirai got attacked by someone in a black robe and a mask. And then Julia got attacked after her match with Amisori by the former Andras Miyagi, which was certainly unexpected. I don't think anyone expected that, of course, going under the name Mashiko now in GLEAT. But yeah, she came in and challenged Julia to a match. It's not a title match, it's a special singles match, and that's going to be taking place as a part of the opening night of the 13th Goddess of Stardom tournament. But Matt, obviously we are building to challenges for both the IWGP Women's Championship and the Wonder of Stardom Championship. It's a ploy that Stardom have used before. It was how we introduced Mirai and Tekla, if you remember back at the end of 2021. Yeah, end of 2021, start of 2022. Are you a fan of this, or would you prefer, there are a lot of people that you'd like to see Mirai have white belt matches with. There's a lot of people who, Mayu Iwatani around the world, can have IWGP Women Championship matches without the Harbingers of Death doing a run-in. Do you think we're just getting a way of sort of introducing some other people to the roster, or do you think, it could be a case of some manner of invasion angle? Who knows? What are your opinions on this?
As long as it works. I mean, I would like to see somebody like Mirai. Obviously, she had the successful title defense against Momo Watanabe at the pay-per-view, which was phenomenal. But to me, it seems like Maika, Mina Shirakawa, and Saori Anou are due, Wonder of Stardom championship matches, especially the fact that once Saori, they teased. So it's like the fact that somebody maybe new to the company, maybe it's somebody that's in the company already is kind of attacking Mirai. That I kind of don't like. However, if it's somebody like a Deonna Purrazzo that's doing it and they kind of just hotshot a feud with her and Mirai, I'm definitely not going to say no to that. But yeah, this roster is already insanely loaded. So if they're going to be bringing somebody in, a new in, they're going to do it under this mask, guys. It's got to be somebody that the booking committee has full confidence in, that is going to be able to hang with the best of the best in Stardom, and it's going to put more eyes on the company. So considering the fact that I didn't know who Tekla and Mirai were when they did this angle back in 2021. Speaking of 2021, folks, don't forget to buy your book, Stardom Living the Dream, 10th anniversary in review by my good friend Rob Goodwin, which he covers every single show of Stardom in 2021. Anywho, there's your plug, brother.
You are relentless.
It's part of the bit, my man. Part of the bit. You got to keep it going. Yeah, it's interesting to see who it's going to be. I did have somebody send me a message on Twitter or X or whatever it's called this week that one of the attackers, by the way that they were moving, it reminded them the way that Janai Kai moves in the ring. So that would be somebody that I would love to see in Stardom, because she does work the like the shoot style kickboxer gimmick. And I'm already just thinking of her and Momo, her and Shuri, her and Mina, her and Mayu. There's be some really, really great matches if they bring a Janai Kai in. And I know she's been in and out of Japan quite a bit in the last year and a half. So if that's one of the attackers are, and it leads to a Mirai Janai Kai match, I'm all for that as well.
Well, I think, unless I'm very much mistaken, and I don't think I am, I'm sure that she is in a faction with Mashiko. I'm sure.
Ooh, there it is, full circle, brother.
I'm sure that they are in Diamond Egoist, and they're a faction in Glee. So I'm wondering if this is going to be some sort of invasion angle with members of Gleet and Freelance. And I know that other wrestlers from that are freelance have done work in All Japan and, like I say, Gleet. So maybe they're doing a run-in on Stardom. I don't know. But other than that, Matt, the two top matches, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. We knew that Mayu and Azumi were going to blow it out of the water. Their first singles match is 2018, which is absolutely crazy when you think back to the news segment when I was going through how many shows Stardom have run since 2018, and Mayu and Azumi have not faced off in singles action. That's absolutely mind-blowing to me. But we knew we were going to get a fantastic match there, even if it only went 12 minutes. What I was most interested in was how Ami Sourei, coming off the back of a pretty good tournament, let's be perfectly honest, one where we didn't think she was going to get many points, and it was going to be a case of how she lost. Coming out of that tournament with a strong victory over Sourei, how was she going to fare top of the card in a championship match against Julia? Ultimately, Matt, how do you think she fared?
I think she did great. I thought the match with, we talked about this, when we were previewing the show. I think it was actually 2 weeks ago because I think this dropped this show happened right around the time we recorded. But we knew that obviously Ami Sourei had a lot of momentum coming out of the 5-star tournament. And she's wrestling Julia, who is notorious in these, bigger matches, longer matches. They'll take somebody in the middle of the card and give them a ton of offense and bring them up where they look like they can hang, with the Julias, the Shiris, the Utamis of the world. And she did that with Ami Sourei. I mean, Ami Sourei, she likes to use the Blue Thunder Bomb quite a bit. And, as a setup, as they're building towards her finish. Ami Sourei hit a Blue Thunder Bomb off the top rope. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And that, she hit the like a Thunderbolt, and I don't think anybody's ever kicked out of it before. Now, I knew the result when I watched this match. I knew what the result was. And Ami hit it, and I was like, did I read the result wrong? Because I don't think anybody's ever kicked out of this. But then Julia kicks out, which, again, makes sense. It's a championship match. Julia's a main eventer. She's at the top of the card. If you're going to protect this finisher as well as they have over the past year or so, if you're going to have anybody kick out of it, main event Korakuen Hall for a championship belt, it makes sense to do it here. But Julia gave Ami Sourei a lot of offense, and Ami Sourei took advantage and made herself look like a credible star. If they're going to put Ami Sourei in the main event from time to time, she clearly belongs. We saw her dabble in the main event a little bit earlier this year with Saya Kamatani, and they had a really, really good match. But you put her in the main event again with a Shiri, with a Julia, it's going to be really good. It's going to be really good. It's maybe only a matter of time. Maybe, we've seen the progression of Mina Shirakawa in a year, Yuna Mizumori in a year. The fact that me and you both agreed last week that Mike and Natsupoi are now coming out of this 5-star as constant main eventers. Would not be shocked in about 7, 8, 9 months if we're talking about Ami Sourei in the same breath. She was great here. Julia is great all the time. Again, we think that Julia is working with a bruised tailbone. Even if she's 100%, the bumps that she took in this match were absolutely insane. That if she's only operating at a 60, 70% frame and she was taking these big bumps for Ami Sourei to get her over, just shows you the unselfishness and the professional that Julia is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Ami has shown that she is more than capable now of hanging in that sort of area. Do I think she's ready for red belt matches? No, certainly not. However, I think she is far more ready for sort of the white belt picture than she was when she fought Saya Kamatani at the start of this year. I think if you think back to that, Matt, I think it was February time. It sort of came a little bit out of left field, and everyone was like, okay, it seems to be just, a stock defense for Saya, and the match was good, but it was just that. It was good. In a reign where most matches were fantastic. However, here, and it could be something as simple as the longer hair, who knows, but she felt more comfortable. She felt more like she belonged in this main event picture. And it could be, Matt, like you mentioned, Julia bringing her up to her level. It could be the fact that Julia wrestles more of the Ami style, maybe, or maybe it's just the progress that she's made since February. I think she did a fantastic job. I don't think anyone in the world thought Ami Sourei was taking the belt off Julia here. I will be amazed if I can find one person who follows this product that thought Ami Sourei was coming out with the belt. But nevertheless, it was an enjoyable match. It's another defense for Julia, as we've talked about earlier on this episode, as we go towards Mercedes Moné versus Julia, which is going to be the main match for this championship, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah. And where do you think that match takes place, Rob? You think they do that at Dream Queendom, or they do that at the January 4th show? I mean, I'm assuming if the January 4th show, we talked about a little bit ago, brother, if it's only a couple hundred people, they're probably going to put that on Dream Queendom because they're going to want to sell, over 3,000 tickets.
If Mercedes is fit, and according to the Observer, she is out of the walking boot now, so obviously significant progress. If she's fit for Dream Queendom, it happens at Dream Queendom. It's a case of when she's fit. However, I wouldn't risk rushing it. I feel like if it's touch and go, whether she's going to be fit for Dream Queendom, don't have it there. Don't have it there. Have a video package for Mercedes. Come on after a Julia Tile defense. Have a video package come on like it did before where, people will still pop. It'll still be a huge thing. And that can then be, maybe you leave off till April and have it at Yokohama Bunkai. Buntai? I'm saying it right.
Whatever you want, brother. It's your world. We're just all paying rent.
Yeah, the April show anyway. Maybe you hold off till then. Because I think, with the greatest of respect, I think Julia and Mercedes Moné is too big a match to take place at Tokyo Dome City Hall. If anything, personally, I think that match is Tokyo Dome worthy. But as they've already announced that Stardom isn't going to be participating, I don't think you lose anything if you hold off on that match till April and have it at that show. Because that could main event your show. Easily. It won't because it's not a Stardom title. But that could easily main event your show. And that will move tickets, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll try to get the inside scoop on Saturday, brother. Maybe I'll run a couple spots with her. We'll see how she's moving.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could do maybe a couple of Hurricane Ranas and just sort of see how she fares.
I'll throw those low kicks, see if she's checking them.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe avoid her ankle though. I can't imagine she'll thank you very much for that. Mayu and Azumi, Matt. We knew it was going to be great. A little bit weird with the break after 2 minutes, but ultimately, it's Mayu, isn't it? It's Mayu doing Mayu things in a Mayu match. But ultimately, that 12 minutes that they went in the semi-main was really, really, really good.
Yeah, Rob, I'm a stickler for the rules. We joked when we did the Kandori Hokutoad episode when we recorded last night. I'm like, how come there's no double count out? What's going on here? The fact that these two were warned for being outside too long and then got counted out. Now I knew that that the match got restarted because I would have been like super pissed if 2 minutes in that this match that we haven't seen in 5 years and how much better Mayu is now and especially Azumi is now from the last for 5 years. That this match at Korakuen Hall and Azumi's anniversary show that had to be redone because of the injuries to Starlight Kid and Utami. That was only going 2 minutes. I would have been pissed, but I was like, oh man, this went 2 minutes and had a count up. But I see it got restarted. And I was like, that's what you get, folks. You need to pay attention to the rules. You have a 20 count. But how about Azumi? We have not seen anybody really, I think, since maybe Mayu or Io doing the dives off the one entranceway in Korakuen Hall. I mean, we've seen, Mayu and Io and Kairi would, anytime there's a big Korakuen Hall show, a big championship match, which majority of them back in 17 and 18 in 2016 had, at least one of the three or somebody who's doing some crazy dive off that. But we have not seen it in a long time. And Azumi brought it out. She did the dive off the side entrance there. And I'd like to see that, more often, obviously in a safe way. So I thought that was really cool that she kind of brought back, that danger spot there. But so they get double counted out. The match starts, and then they basically have almost 3 different matches in 12 minutes. They have the high speed match, then they have the striking match, and then they have, your basic, let's dump each other on their head and try to, basically like the Mayu big match, which Azumi was able to keep up with. And I thought the finish was just great, how Mayu hits the two-stage dragon suplex and then was like, no, we're going to beat Azumi with the Azumi sushi in the middle of the ring. And she did it quite well. I wouldn't be heartbroken if we would see Mayu break out the Azumi sushi from time to time and matches, like almost like as a desperation thing. Just to say, it's like, well, I used this move on Azumi and Korakuen Hall. Maybe I'll use it to, retain the IWGP Championship or to get a win, maybe like a Momo Watanabe or something. But all in all, great match. This was my favorite match of this show. I did enjoy the Julia Amisori match. I gave that 4 stars. This Azumi Mayu match, absolutely must see, 4.5 stars.
Yeah, I gave it 4.25. It's, two of my favorites doing a match that I love. There was nothing about this match I didn't like, and I think that that jump off the entrance to the concourse, it seems like a rite of passage at Korakuen Hall, doesn't it? So maybe Azumi is ascending to that level of freedom. Maybe. What else do you want to talk about then, Matt, on this undercard before we head on to Nagoya?
No, that was it. The rest of the show was pretty good, but it was just basically, get everybody on the card, let everybody be seen. The main thing on the undercard was just get Tora a big win over Cosmic Angels to build her up to her championship match, the next week, which we'll talk about. But solid undercard, but yeah, the money is in those final 2 matches.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd argue they are up there with the best recent matches at Korakuen. Certainly singles matches, because we seem to be sort of dealing in tags, don't we, at the moment at Korakuen, with the importance of the shows sort of taking a backseat to the extended amount of pay-per-views. And with that being said, we move on to Stardom's latest pay-per-view, which was Stardom Nagoya Golden Fight, the Kinshachi Miracle. And I am probably butchering that, but that is what we are going with. On the 9th of October, it was a Monday, but it was also a national holiday in Japan, which explains why every single wrestling company in Japan was running a show on this day. New Japan had their Destruction in Ryogoku show. I know that TJPW had a show as well. But Stardom was running from Nagoya, the Aichi Prefectural Gymnasium in Nagoya, Aichi, Japan, and the show was as follows. Amisori in the pre-show six-way match, Amisori defeated Hanan, Lady C, Miyu Amasaki, Ruaka, and Yuna Mizumori by pinning. Sorry, just get my notes up. There we go. By pinning Ruaka with the Blue Thunder Bomb in 6 minutes and 29 seconds. Meisera dethroned Saki Kashima to become the brand new high-speed champion, pinning Saki with the La Magistral in 6 minutes and 28 seconds, so becoming the 24th high-speed champion. Saori Anou defeated Azumi in a special singles match in 8 minutes and 38 seconds with the jackknife pin. Syuri defeated Mina Shirakawa in the UWF rules match in 10 minutes and 45 seconds with a knockout in what was possibly the most surprising match on the card when you really consider it. In the Artist of Stardom Championship match, the team of the Bari Bari Bombers, the champions, Julia Tekla and Mai Sakurai, defended their titles for the second time, defeating the Maika, Suzu Suzuki and Megan Bain team in 5 minutes and 37 seconds, with Julia pinning Maika with the Ganasuke clutch. But the match was very, very much secondary to the storyline that they are telling with Maika. And I really, really like that, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Wonder of Stardom Championship match next, with the champion Mirai defending successfully for the second time, defeating the challenger Momo Watanabe in 15 minutes and 32 seconds with the lariat. In our semi-main, the Kairi send-off match, Kairi's final match in Stardom. And if you go back to the last episode, Matt said that he thought that Kairi may put someone over in this match. No such luck. no such luck. Kairi absolutely destroyed Koguma with this insane elbow to give the team of Kairi, Nanae Takahashi, and Mayu Iwatani the win over Hazuki Koguma and Saya Ida in 24 minutes and 25 seconds. As I mentioned, Kairi absolutely destroying Koguma with an insane elbow. And then in your main event, the World of Stardom Championship match, the champion, Tam Nakano, defended successfully for the third time, defeating the challenger Natsuko Tora in 21 minutes and 34 seconds with the Violet Screwdriver. So, Matt, first things first, the attendance for the show. You know how much I love a stat. So 1,315 people inside the Aichi Prefectural Gymnasium. Now, the last time they ran a pay-per-view was Stardom X Stardom 2022, which I actually can't find the attendance for. But the show before that they ran was on the 29th of the 1st, 2022, and that was the Nagoya Supreme Fight Show, which had Syuri and Mirai on top, and Julia and Mayu Iwatani's time limit draw. Saya Kamatani defending the belt against Unagi Sayaka. That drew 1,306. So 9 more people for this show. Do you think Stardom, considering this show had Kairi's final Stardom match, do you think Stardom will be disappointed that they didn't sell more tickets, especially when you consider, ultimately, when you look at it, it's quite a loaded card?
I think it's a good number. I mean, even though it is was a bank holiday in Japan, it's still tough to run on Monday because you don't know if people are going to be going away or going on vacation or just taking that day off to get stuff done around the house. Lord knows that I sometimes have to use my vacation time just to get stuff done around the house because I'm so busy with my 84,000 jobs. Not only that, Rob, but every wrestling company in Japan pretty much ran a wrestling show, so you're only stretched so thin. Had this been on like a Saturday or a Sunday, maybe in the middle of the month, I think it may have done a little bit better. For 1,300 people is still a really, really good draw for what ultimately was a really, really good show.
I don't think the fact that every single company in Japan was also running shows helped the attendance numbers, even if the main event with Destruction and Ryogoku was Sonata versus Evil. But we won't talk about that. We'll talk about this pay-per-view instead. I want to talk for a moment about the angle with Micah. So throughout this 5-minute runtime, because I believe in our preview, I definitely said that Barry Bombers were going to drop the belts. I can't actually remember what you said, Matt. Did you think they'd drop them as well?
Yeah, I think I agreed. So that's why I was like, oh, and I was more shocked that this match went under 6 minutes, where it's like when you have 6 people, you're trying to get over. And I understand now. The main thing was to get over is just this Micah and Suzu thing, which kind of goes into, and we'll get into it when we get to the end of the show, because with the Goddess of Stardom tournament happening this weekend, that we do need to give our predictions who we think is going to win the tournament. So I think this may play into I'm showing my hand here, what I think the finals will be for the Goddess tournament. So that's obviously what they wanted to get over. You know, they've been kind of sprinkling things in here or there, you know, before the 5-star, during the 5-star, and then ultimately with the injuries to Utami and Saya Kamatani, had to get rebooked. So they figured, let's go all in on the finals, Suzu and Micah. And there's that one awesome shot where Suzu is, you know, they're putting the crown and the cape on her, and Micah is just on the side like, I was so close. I've been in this company for over 3 years. She's only been full-time less than a year, and she gets to wear the crown. You know, so I think it's just an ultimate boiling point that just boiled over at the end of this match, where after the match was over, Micah just punched Suzu right in the jaw. It's like, all right, I guess it's on now, you know, like, so that little faction we thought was going to happen between May Sarah, Megan Bain, Mike, and Suzuki probably isn't happening now, my friend.
No, probably not. What I do like is, though, it's not out of the realms of possibility. This is a perfectly legitimate and justified beef that Micah has with Suzu Suzuki. Suzu swans in, and Micah was perfectly within her rights to think, well, I'd have won the 5-star had it not been for Suzu just decided she fancied having a run in Stardom. And to see Julia, who, Micah has been in this faction with Julia for 3 years, they've been friends for 3 years, to then see Julia defending Suzu when Micah feels so obviously slighted, I think it's a really good storyline. It saves the fact that you want to keep Megan Bayne strong. Obviously, you don't want Suzu Suzuki getting pinned, having just won the 5-star and then challenging Tam in the main event. So this makes perfect sense. It really does. It furthers the storyline for Micah. It gives another defense to the Barry Bombers without, too many more injuries. Obviously, we can't afford any more injuries on the Stardom roster at the moment. But ultimately, I think it worked really, really well. And I think this is going to be that final push for Micah to be that main event star that she proved she could be in the 5-star. For me, she was one of, if not my MVP of the entire tournament, alongside Natsupoi. So I wonder if this is their way of sort of setting her out on her own, away from Donna Del Mondo, like Syuri did, having to get out of the shadow of Julia before she can become the real main event star. And I wonder if what they will do is have Tam versus, I'm sort of speculating a little bit, Suzu Suzuki came out after the red belt match, challenged Tam for the belt at Stardom Gold Rush, which is going to be happening at the end of November. I wouldn't be surprised if Tam defeats Suzu Suzuki there and the next challenger is Micah. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
I think what they're going to do is Tam has the successful title defense on Suzu, and then you have about a month to build to really 4 to 5 weeks. You have 2 big shows. You have the January 4th show and the December 29th show. I think to just make those shows bigger, you run back Suzu and Micah, and you build it up as there's no titles, but it's a rematch of the 5-star final. And what would happen if Micah was fresh? Now, granted, I understand technically Suzu did wrestle a match on the pre-show, but compared to what Micah had to go through with Mirai, like what would happen? And then you get Micah the big win on that show, where you can kind of bookend it, where it's like, well, she had the big win at All-Star Grand Queendom against Himika, in front of 5,000 people or what have you, and now you're going to give her a big win on this show as well, and then really starting pushing her up towards the main event going into 2024. There's a whole bunch of different scenarios that can work. I do want to point out that I listened to a friend of the show, Karen Peterson, on Post Wrestling this past week, and she thinks that Suzu Suzuki's taking the belt off Tam, and they're doing Suzu and Julia as the main event of Dream Queendom, which I thought was very interesting.
My only thought with that is, they could do that, couldn't they? And then, obviously, we know that Julia's next New Japan Strong Championship title defense is going to be against Hyan. That was announced at the 1st of October show, which I forgot to mention. But imagine if Julia gets the red belt back from Suzu Suzuki in December. And then there's a challenge for Mercedes Moné. And that is your main event of the Yokohama Buntai.
For the red belt.
For the red belt.
That makes the red belt. You've no disrespect to anybody that's had that red belt. You know how much I honor that belt. I think it's one of the most, if not the most important championship in all of wrestling, where you've never had a star in the history of Stardom like a worldwide star like Mercedes Moné challenging for the World of Stardom Championship. And win, lose, or draw, that belt is going to get over huge Rob Goodwin. Look at you, my friend. Look at you. That's a really good booking decision.
The only thing that I don't like about that is Suzu then would, because the Gold Rush show is the 18th of November, I believe. She would have the belt for just over a month. And whilst there is only a select few in Stardom that are entrusted with the red belt, hell, Tam's been in the company for since 2018, 2017? So it's taken her 6 years to get the red belt. Only 2 people have ever held it twice. It's not everyone, despite how good a lot of the roster is, not everyone is going to have a red belt run. So just to have the red belt for any amount of time is relatively prestigious. I wouldn't want Suzu to only have it for less than a month.
I think too, buddy. I think Karen did say that she thinks that Suzu would go over Julia. So,
Wow.
I think she's we gotta have her on the show. I'm gonna send her a message. I actually have a little bit of downtime in between while I'm waiting in line in New York. I'm gonna shoot her over an email this weekend to see if we can get her on the show, because I'm really interested in her train of thought, because I didn't even look at it like that. I think me, you, and everybody kind of figured Tam's the big draw. Tam's going to be defending the World of Stardom Championship at the end of December at Dream Queendom. But she kind of really got my brain turning there. I mean, Suzu versus Julie in the main event of that show, I would definitely not say no to, you know?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And obviously we saw from that feud at Supreme Fight in February just how good that can be. Obviously, you know, it might be worth getting Karen on for our preview show, for our second to last show of the year, because we may have a guest, you know, just to tease, we may have a guest ahead of the review show. I'd love to have Karen's thoughts on it, though. I think that'd be amazing. Anyway, moving on from this, because we seem to have diverted away from the actual pay-per-view. I don't feel like you can really rate this match because it was secondary. You know, it was Suzu Suzuki who accidentally hit Maika, and then Julia was able to roll her with a Ganasuke clutch. I feel like it was, you know, the match was secondary to the actual story, and the story that opens a lot of doors, especially for Maika. I happen to agree. I think I wouldn't be surprised if it's Mafia Bella versus Maika and Megan Bayne in the final of the Tag League. I'd be very, very surprised if Maika and Megan Bayne don't make it to the final. In fact, I'm just going out there now. They're my winners. Simply,
You want to do it now? That's what we're talking about. You want to do quick predictions?
No, we'll do it. We'll do it after. No,
okay.
Let's talk about this show. Let's talk about this show.
How are you doing today, brother? What else is going on? What'd you eat today? Shut up, Matt.
Anyway, Matt, this show as a whole, fantastic. Talk me through your thoughts, good sir.
Absolutely. Just real. The pre-show was good. It was what it was. It seems like every wrestler had like 2 moves to do, and then they took it home, which is fine. So I'm going to get it is a pay-per-view, so I'm going to go through each match and give my star rating. I know you did not see all of this, correct, sir?
I didn't see all of this show. Unfortunately, it's been one of those weeks in the Goodwin household. I've managed to cherry pick a few moments from matches, so this is going to be heavily led by Matt.
Okay, but I'm going to go through each match, give my opinion. If you cut me off, if there's something that you've seen or a question or add anything in. So pre-show 3, the high-speed championship. Now, Saki Kashima obviously is more of the comedic wrestler. So this match kills the start. And as they're in the opposite corners waiting for the bell, Saki Kashima all of a sudden does the Shuri MMA fighter stance, where she puts her hands up, she squares up like she's going to come out as like a shooter. And they go to May Sarah. May Sarah was like, oh, this is what we're doing? And the bell rings. Of course, none of that happens. I just thought that was a chuckle. I liked how Saki, her strategy, her psychology was very simple, not to get into a high-speed match with May Sarah. She basically shuts her down early on, and then the last quarter of the match is May Sarah doing all the crazy high-speed stuff that she does. Eventually, Saki Kashima tries for the Kishikasai. She gets rolled up into a cradle for a 3 count. Really good psychology there. Easy match to follow. But now with May Sarah, who's more of the high-speed wrestler, more of the Izumi, the Starlight Kid, Hazuki, Natsupoi, I think you're going to get that match quality better back. Not that Saki's not bad, but just what we've seen with the high-speed division over the last 2 or 3 years with matches that can absolutely steal a show. Again, we called the match, just yesterday, brother, loaded pay-per-view that absolutely stole the show for the high-speed championship with the Izumi and Starlight Kid. And I think May Sarah is that quality of a wrestler where she can have, maybe the second or third best match on a loaded pay-per-view with that championship. All in all, though, I thought Saki Kashima's high-speed championship run was fun. We knew it wasn't going to last long. It was something completely different. Really, really fun stuff. And I'm excited to see what May Sarah does with the high-speed championship. Match number 2, brother. Did you get a chance to see this one or any of this with Saori Anu, who does the Tom Tandra versus one Izumi?
The Tom Tandra. No, I didn't. I saw the main event and I saw the Kairi match.
I'll get the one negative thing out of the way. The finish got messed up. I know a lot of people are like, it's a botch. I hate when people say botch. It's such an insult to the wrestlers that are out there putting a phenomenal performance on. They got a little tripped up with the Azumi Sushi getting countered into what I call the backslide from heaven, and that it was like the last 20 seconds of the match. But don't let that take away from what was an absolute fantastic match, my friend. When you get time, definitely go out and watch this. Watch this match. We knew this was going to be good. This was they started out with almost like a high speed style match, which obviously Azumi's the master of. But depending on what they do with Saori Anou next year, I wouldn't be heartbroken if we had a series of high-speed championship matches with Saori Anou and Mei Seira going into 2024, because I think they would absolutely have an absolute fantastic matches. We saw how great their tag match was with Suzu Suzuki and Natsupoi teaming with those respected wrestlers. But this was really, really good. Definitely must see. One of my favorite matches of the show. I just want to point something out with Azumi. We all know she's a great wrestler. She turned pro at age 11, which is absolutely insane, considering the fact that she passed her Stardom Pro test at age 11 is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. She's one of the best in the world. She gets better each and every outing. The one little thing that she may have been missing, I kind of think that she's starting to pick up on it, and that's kind of like the it factor. Not that she doesn't have that cool factor, but she's not on the level of like a Julia, not on the level of like a danger person like a Shuri or an Utami, or even like Saori Anou, who just has that really cool badass entrance, is very stoic in her entrance, very focused on what she does. It kind of has that it factor where we've seen, and that's something that you can't teach. And I think where Azumi may have been fumbling with the main event it factor is the fact that we've been watching her wrestle since she was 11. She's been in front of crowds in Korakuen Hall since she was 11, 12 years old, and maybe a little bit timid to kind of maybe get out of her shell a little. And that's just me kind of spitballing, where we've seen her getting that more cool factor the last year and a half to 2 years. We're here. It seems like she's right there. It seems like she's right there for that main event it factor. Her in-ring, she's a main eventer. I mean, there's from bell to bell. I don't think there's a dozen wrestlers better in the world than what Azumi does, what she provides, that product in ring. But I think it might just be a combination of a few things. She has the new gear, which we saw debut at her 10th anniversary show. Now, granted, I'm a little more partial to the purple gear because I like my Queen's Quest members to have, Azumi with purple, Saya with green, Utami with red, Momo Watanabe when she was there with blue. But I think this works well for her because she has the blonde hair. And Rob, we've been podcasting almost 2 years together. This goes a long way with me. Azumi is tanning. Yes, folks, Azumi is tanning. So I think her tan with her hair color and her color scheme on her gear really, really works to send her to that next level. And again, when it comes to making or breaking somebody into that main event level, it's always the little things that you point out and say, oh, that's it. This one little thing happened that I was like, okay, I think she's there now. I think she's there now. When they're doing the intros of both Saori and Azumi, when they're panning on Azumi, she's in the corner, she's stretching, and she just nonchalantly looks at the camera, points, and winks as if okay, Saori Anou is a really, really cool wrestler, a badass wrestler, but I got this. It was very laid, and I don't know what it was. It was just her facial. It just seems to me okay, I think Azumi's getting that main event level it factor on a level of a Julia, a Tam, a Shuri, and it's she's only 21, and she's literally the total package. But yeah, this match was just fantastic wrestling, back and forth, really good counters. Did not know which way it was going to go. The two of them at the end just countering each other's finishers, where eventually it is Saori Anou countering the Azumi Sushi into what I call the back. I think it's called the Potter Ring, but I'm just going to call it the backslide from heaven because it's just an awesome move. Yeah, really, really good stuff, my friend. When you get a chance, check this out. And let me know what you think about my presumption on Azumi now having that main event level cool factor. 4.25 stars. We go to one of my favorite styles of matches, UWF rules match, shoot style match with Mirai versus Shuri. Really good way to start this match with the leg kicks to kind of almost keep the distance, to test the timing between the two. Mina is very, very good at striking. Jessie from Club Venus, when we interviewed her, did put over Mina can throw some hands. We know Mina's kicks have gotten far more improving in the last year and a half. But obviously, Shuri's on a completely another level here. Where she isolates Mina in this is her grappling. I'm a big fan of somebody that can grapple real well, whether it's worked or a shoot style. The way that Shuri's able to, grind her opponent down with certain grappling and knowing where to grab somebody to take them down and then to transition to another submission is absolutely fantastic. I mean, that takes thousands upon thousands of hours to perfect. Again, I don't care if it's a worked or a shoot style for the way that Shuri's able to do it. And it was clear on point in this match and any of the UWFI rules matches that she's had, like, with Konami and whatnot. She does a great job pointing that out because it is a different match. Mina does a great job keeping Shuri isolated with kicks. And then almost to the point where Mina is baiting Shuri in to keep throwing those kicks. And eventually she's going to grab a kick into the Dragon Screw leg whip into the figure four, which I thought was really, really good. And then at that point, when Mina finally has the advantage on Shuri by going to the leg, Mina's pouring on the head kicks, the back and forth forearms, and to the spinning back fist. But ultimately, it's just Shuri just gets crazy violent. She hits a head kick that basically drops Mina down to her knees and then just hits a buzzsaw kick where the referee's like, okay, I've seen enough. They call for the bell. Great match, especially if you like shoot-style matches. This one for me was 4 stars. Now, Rob, did you by chance see or be spoiled about the post-match angle after this match?
I did not. Please elaborate.
Sure. So after the match, Shuri leaves. She puts Mina over, shakes her hand, gives Mina the ring, which is ultimate respect. And then they show the stadium or the place goes black. They show a promo that Mina's doing, and I don't know what Mina's saying because it's not subtitles and I don't speak Japanese, but she's basically almost like cutting a promo, like a pre-match promo. She's stretching, she's on the ground, and on the side of where she is behind her is a door that's cracked open that they keep panning to, where you keep seeing these creatures in masks, Halloween-style masks that are looking at Mina. And Mina's just like, she's talking to the camera person, they're talking back and forth, and they're trying to tell Mina that somebody is in that room. And every time she looks back there, she can't see anybody back there. She goes back, cutting the promo. This happens 2 or 3 times. Eventually, it is revealed on the screen that these masked wrestlers are none other than Zap and Dump Matsumoto, and they're building towards a match at the Halloween show on the 28th of October. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a one-on-one match with Mina versus Dump Matsumoto, or if it's going to be a tag match with maybe her and Waka versus Dump and Zap. So very interesting that they're bringing Dump Matsumoto back after the basically her just using the cane for about 7 minutes in that Legends match. So, but if we just see Mina and Dump Matsumoto just standing in the middle of the ring trading strikes, I'm pretty interested. I'm kind of intrigued on that one, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly something interesting. I don't think they're doing anything huge for the Halloween show, though it would make sense with all the clowns making an appearance at Korakuen for that to sort of resolve itself at the Halloween show. But I don't think it's going to be a major level pay-per-view. I wonder if they're going to do something like the Midsummer Fairs show, where they have a couple of novelty matches, maybe. Maybe that is where we get our second Beauty Salon Zest match, Matt.
I think we were saving that for the Tokyo Dome, though. But I know they mentioned that they're now. I think once New Japan realizes they're not going to sell 60,000 tickets to the Tokyo Dome, I think it's like, all right, we got to pull out the big guns. Break glass in case of emergency. Beauty Salon's Zest hair match. I think that's how you get 60,000 people in the Tokyo Dome. I digress, brother. The next match was the Artists of Stardom Championship match. We already talked about it. Way too short, but I understand the main thing was to put over the angle. They did a great job of having Megan Bayne look like a badass here. And then a great job of Tekla not backing down from Megan Bayne. She's like, I'm just going to keep bringing it and keep bringing it and keep bringing it. I really like that. I had it at 3.5 stars. Again, I could have went another minute or two, but I get it. The whole thing was the post-match angle. Match number 5, the best match of the show. Wonder of Stardom Championship match. Rob, we did a Patreon episode of our top 5 favorite Wonder of Stardom Championship matches. This didn't break the top 5, but if we did the top 10 or top 15, I would really have to consider it. That's how good this match was. I mean, this is just prime Momo Watanabe. You know, we made mention the past couple of weeks that she's really finding her footing on how to be a really good heel, really good working heel with the Oedo Tai gimmick and still being Momo Watanabe from 2018 to 2020, 2020 as being one of the best wrestlers in the world. And she really was able to kind of cement that in pretty much every single match she had at the 5-star. And this was no different. As good as their match was on night one of the 5-star Grand Prix, this match was better. And you know, it's a championship match. You're getting more time. That match didn't get lost in the shuffle with all how pretty much main event top heavy night one of the 5-star was. As this was great. The two of them start out with some really good chain wrestling. Mirai gets the advantage. Mirai goes to do a baseball slide onto Momo Watanabe on the outside, and Momo Watanabe does her best Philly impersonation when she takes the apron and traps Mirai in the apron. All 84,000 members of Oedo Tai blind the ref, letting Momo Watanabe hit Mirai with a baseball bat shot that it sounded like a gunshot went off in the building. I mean, this thing was just brutal. And then Momo Watanabe, I mean, she's part of what group, Rob?
Oedo Tai.
And you know what Oedo Tai's got to do?
Oedo Tai, Matthew, have got to Oedo Tai.
So we get a little bit of a brawl. However, then we get some really good lace psychology. And I know you're a huge fan of limb work, so this is where it really going to perk up for you. Momo gets a chair, but not one of those folding chairs, like one of the ones you can't fold. And she puts it on Mirai's arm, and she sits down. And it's on the arm that it's her left arm that she's got all taped up that you know she is going to use to throw these lariats. And so we get arm work, we get kicks, we get strikes back and forth, some really good stuff here. There's an awesome spot where Mirai is just fighting through the pain. We've seen this before, you know, in her previous championship matches, in her previous, like, you know, the bigger matches that she's had where she's just, you know, fighting through the pain because that's how much the Wonder of Stardom championship means to her. She's really working Momo over. She goes for the Mirror Mirai shock. And as she goes to like plant her, Momo is able to basically spring up and hit the Samato coming off the Mirror Mirai shock. We've seen her do it with Utami on the BT bomb. We've seen her just be able to counter these really big moves into the Samato, almost like out of nowhere. And she does it here just effortlessly. It's really good. Momo then just starts crushing Mirai with these brutal leg kicks, but Mirai just fighting spirit fights back, what you want in your underdog, beaten down babyface that in a championship match. I mean, just really great psychology, really back and forth with the kicks and the forearms. Mirai just towards the end just fights through the pain, hits a brutal lariat, and then the ace is high in a Momo for 2. Mirai goes for the basically the Stan Hansen-esque lariat. Like he comes off the ropes with all of her might going to hit this lariat. Momo ducks, hits the Tequila Sunrise, Peach Sunrise combination for 2. As soon as Mirai is able to get up, she gets crushed with a violent head kick from Momo, and then she goes for the Peach Thunder. However, Mirai at the very last second, I mean, they held this Peach Thunder for so long, even to the point where it looked like Mirai was starting to duck her head to take the bump. And I'm like, are they going to change the belt here? They held this Peach Sunrise on at the perfect time. Mirai's able to escape. She hits a Rainmaker lariat and then another brutal, violent lariat. 2 insane lariats, stiff lariats, back to back for the 3 count. Again, buddy, this is absolute must see. Definitely go and watch this match. I mentioned yesterday when we were talking that you definitely need to see this match. This is one of my favorite Mirai matches ever. Maybe outside of the Sai Kamatani white belt match from spring of I think it was Flash and Champions last year. Maybe my favorite Mirai match outside of that one. Just so good. 4.5 stars, and I love to see main event, you know, work rate Momo Watanabe, you know, just back in full swing. This 6-person match, my friend, you mentioned that Kairi didn't put anybody over. What do I always say? It's not who goes over, it's who gets over, because nobody told Hazuki this was Kairi's last match because she didn't give a damn, to the point. This was the second best match on the show. I mean, they gave this time. Kairi was the MVP of this match. She was in this match so much. She didn't dog it at all. I think she realized that once she goes to WWE, she's going to have 4 or 5 minute matches on Raw and SmackDown, and she's going to get her time in here. And she got it. She had great tag stuff with Nanai. Obviously, as them Seven and Kairi, they have great tag stuff. Her and Mayu is part of Freedom. They did their Freedom stuff. There was some really good 6-person teamwork between Kairi, Nanai, and Mayu. And then she gave a lot to Saida, a lot to Koguma, and Hazuki literally beat her so bad so bad that Kairi's lipstick and makeup were like smudged all over her face. I was like, what was that from? And then I kind of went back and watched. I'm like, it's just Hazuki just being Hazuki. It's why we love her. Why we love her. It was like, oh my God, the fact that, and I know we can get into the whole Kairi missed matches that we never got to see, you know, a rematch with Saya, a rematch with Utami. We didn't get a singles match with Julia. I know like that's the money match. If you can do one more singles match, everybody wanted to see Julia versus Kairi. Man, I tell you what, after this, no disrespect to Julia. I love Julia. Man, I want Hazuki versus Kairi because they beat the dog out of each other. It's again, Hazuki beat up Kairi so bad that her makeup was like she almost looked like this, you know, she almost looked like she was going to join a faction of Fukin Death with all that makeup all over. Anywho, I digress. Kairi was great here. Everybody was great here. Saya Ida was terrific. There was a lot of really cool back and forth stuff with Kagama and Kairi, even to the point where Kairi is holding Mayu goes for a super kick on Kagama, and she accidentally hits Kairi. Kagama rolls up Kairi right into the middle of the ring on the Kuma roll, and the camera only has the pin. So it's like, oh man, they're going to put Kagama over Kairi here? Like, I bit so hard on the falsy because the camera was only focused on them, but then eventually Mayu is able to break up the pinfall. There's a spot in this match where Nanai hits a double superplex. She superplexes both Saida and Hazuki at the same time, which I thought was super impressive. This was a great match. I'm so glad it got the time that it did because it told out so many stories, it flushed out so many things, and everybody got over this match. You know, Mayu, there's nobody that took a step off, but even Kairi in her final match, she put the most work in the ring. She was the MVP of this match. But again, you know how much I love Hazuki. Just watching Hazuki just basically just destroy everybody in this match, even with Mayu. Was like, yeah, I know you're part of Stars, but guess what? You're on the opposite end, so I'm going to kick your ass. Really great match. Definitely go out of your way to see this one. I had this one at 4.5 stars as well, but I like the MIRAI and Momo match just a little bit better. Tam and Natsuko Tora, I thought I'll get the one negative thing out of the way. I thought maybe went a little bit too long, a little bit past 20 minutes. I don't think is a sweet spot for Tora. Tam, maybe if she's in there with like a Shuri, with Saya Kamatani, Utami, Julia, we know she can have that really good 20-minute match. I thought maybe dragged on a little bit too long. Really great dominance from Tora in this match. Tam tries to blitz Tora early on with the kicks and the violent shooting. She goes for an early dive. Tora cuts her off and then slams her off the top onto the apron. So we had some big bumps early. They did a really good job teasing that they were going to change the belt with Tora doing the mist. And then the DVD into the Swanton, and then she tried for another DVD. Tam is able to get out. It's a perfect Tiger suplex. Tam is still on the defensive because she's getting blitzed with she got blitzed with a whole bunch of moves. Tora tries to come back with the lariat, and probably for the first time in a Tam match, Tam uses the violent screwdriver almost as a defensive move. Because again, she's still on the cell, but Tora tries to hit that big axe bomber. Tam grabs her arm, she rolls through, hits the violent screwdriver, and then there's no pinfall. She just needs to kind of get away to get a breather from the blitzing offense. They kind of go back and forth for a little bit. Tam hits a whole bunch of violent shooting, some violent kicks, and then she's struggling to get Tora up into this violent screwdriver. And you can just see it's just a timing issue, a fatigue issue, maybe a little bit of both. She finally gets her up for the violent screwdriver and then realizes, Rob, she loses her halfway. And Tam does really the only thing she can do to save Tora's neck, and that's by putting her knees out. Because if not, poor Tora would have hit, full force without Tam guiding her because she loses her and she would have landed right on her neck. And I don't even want to even speculate what would have happened. So Tam does the only thing that she really can do. She just puts her two knees out and Tora's head hits Tam's knees on the way down of this violent screwdriver that just got mistimed. I was worried about Tora's neck. I was worried about Tam's knees due to all the injuries that's been happening in Stardom. You don't want to see anything bad happen. You see how Tora is able to get up. She was okay, and then eventually they do the post-match promo with Tam and Suzuki. So, and then that was a few days ago. Nothing was reported that nobody got injured, thank God. But yeah, pretty good match. I had it 4.25 stars. They could have shaved off 3 or 4 minutes, but that credit to Tam after they were just mistimed on that, which is a scary move to begin with on that violent screwdriver. Her just to kind of just get her knees out to save Tora's neck. So all in all, great show. Definitely watch the 6-person match, the final Kairi match, and definitely watch Mirai versus Momo Watanabe.
I must admit, when I saw that Tam had pinned Tora with the violent screwdriver, I was like, "Oh my god, that's incredible core strength."
The first one was clean.
Yeah.
The first one was because when she had her up, I was like, ooh, the first one was clean. I'm like, okay, she's going to either pin her with something else. And when she get her out for the second one, you could tell she was struggling. I'm like, okay, this is the finish. And it makes sense. They built Tor up as this monster at the 5-star. The fact that it's going to take Tam's nuclear finish twice to beat Tora just gets Tora over. But like the first one was clean. The second one, I don't know if that's all Tam had left in the reserves or was just missed timing and trying to get up. But it was, yeah, brother, it was ugly. But again, I would rather have an ugly finish than have somebody get hurt. And again, the match was good, a minute or two too long, in my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's a fair criticism. Tam, for me, Tam has always worked. 17 minutes is Tam's sweet spot, I feel. Fantastic short sprint matches that you can get emotionally invested in. But 20 minutes is by the by. The whole point, again, nobody really thought that Tora was going over here. But if you are basically trying to re-establish her as a dominant heel, I feel like they did that during this match, even if she didn't come out as the victor. Ultimately, we now have someone that can play the heel foil at the top of the card when required, which is all we need really from the leader in Oedatai, certainly. So talking about sort of Ryogoku and all the pay-per-views coming up, sort of a rundown of what we've got left. So the 15th of October, which is Sunday as we record, that is the Tag League opening night. That's at Ota Ward City Gym. The 29th of October at Takikawa Stage Garden is the Halloween show, Stardom Dark Knight. On the 12th of November is the Tag League final. That's going to be in Nagaoka. On the 18th of November in Edion Arena, Osaka, that is Gold Rush, which we know will be main evented by Tam versus Suzu Suzuki. Or is that going to be an Aichi? That might be an Aichi on the 2nd of December. No, it's in November. We've then got a show in Aichi on the 2nd of December, and then, of course, the Ryogoku show, Dream Queendom, is going to be happening on the 29th of December. So we've still got a fair load of shows to come. But first of all, obviously, is the Goddess of Stardom Tag League, which, as I mentioned before, is going to be starting out towards City Gym, and it's going to be starting on the 15th of October. There is literally no rest for the Stardom roster. But, as I mentioned at the head of the show, we are going to be having Blue Block versus Blue Block and Red Block versus Red Block, which is going to make significantly more sense. The opening night has been announced. There is going to be some undercard matches, but in terms of the Tag League itself, these are your matches. So, in the Blue Goddess block, we've got Mirai and Mei Sakurai versus Tam Nakano and Yuna Mizumori. Maika and Megan Bain taking on Ami Sourei and Lady C. And then Mayu Iwatani and Hanan versus Hazuki and Koguma FWC. That is a match you need to keep an eye on, certainly. In Red Block, we've got Mina Shirakawa and Waka Tsukiyama taking on Saya Ida and Hanako. Syuri and Saki Kashima taking on Natsuka Tora and Momo Watanabe. And then we've also got Suzu Suzuki and Mei Seira taking on Suzu's former prominent stablemates, Risa Sera and Karumi Hiragi. And then in a special singles match, obviously, as we mentioned before, Julia versus Mashiko. Matt, obviously, some really tasty matchups there, most notably Mayu and Hanan versus FWC, and Suzu Suzuki and Mei Seira versus Risa Sera and Karumi Hiragi. We sort of alluded to it a little bit earlier on. Who are your favourites to reach the final, and who is your favourite to win? I've sort of already shown my hand. I do think it's going to be a Mafia Bella and a Maika and Megan Bain final, with Maika and Megan Bain going over. That's my prediction. What about you?
My prediction, I'm going to go long-winded here. I'm going to go the last two teams to be qualified going into the finals. Blue block is going to be Megan Bain and Micah and FWC. And red block, it's going to be the Prominence team of Risa Sarah and Kurumi Haragi and Suzu Suzuki and Risa Sarah. That being said, my finals are going to be Suzu Suzuki and May Sarah versus Micah and Megan Bain.
Nice.
And Mike and Megan Bain are my picks to win. Now, if Suzu does reach the final, that'll be 3 tournaments this year that she's reached the final. She's won the Triangle Derby final. She won the 5-star. And then even if she doesn't make the final, I have a feeling that team is going to absolutely steal the show this entire tournament, considering the fact of how great their chemistry is. And I think that they will have a legit shot going into the final night. So much I love Saida, not her. Mina, Waka's eating a lot of falls. Shiri's fantastic, but Saki Kashma's eating a lot of falls. Momo and Ruwaka built up really well, but we're going to get a lot of DQs there. I firmly think that red block's going to be a shootout between Mafia Bella, the Prominence team, and Suzu and May Sarah.
I think you're probably right, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I don't hear that often.
No, well, we've both predicted Micah and Megan Bain to win. So in the middle of November, when Syuri and Saki Kashima have walked out as the winners, everyone can say you shouldn't have predicted that they were going to win, because everything you predict, Stardom Cast, is wrong. And they are correct in that. We haven't actually... You mentioned the Triangle Derby. There's been nothing to say that that's going to happen, because it started literally the 3rd of January. It was literally right after the the Sumo Hall show. I'm assuming at Gold Rush they're going to announce it, because there's not a lot of time. There's only 2 months before that tournament starts.
Crazy.
And again, hopefully they just do block versus block. Block versus their own block again, because that was one of my main issues with the Triangle Derby. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to an end. Now, I wanted to end with a couple of numbers, which is great podcasting. Everyone loves.
Rob, I don't mean to cut you off. You got it again.
Oh yes. My God, I did.
Can I do it?
We are first. Before I go into maths, we're going to go into our EO watch. Matt, take it away.
Absolutely, sir. And I always remind it because I always forget too, because it's obviously it's not Stardom matches. But Io Shirai, now known as Io Sky, I will always refer to Io Shirai, is the queen of Stardom, in my opinion, the greatest female wrestler of all time. So we are going to keep an eye on what our genius of the sky, the founder of Queen's Quest, the one of the 3 daughters of Stardom, is doing. Now, last week was a very quick one because she didn't do anything. She was kind of hanging out with Bailey at ringside, and that was it. But they doubled up on the EO watch this week, good sir. On SmackDown on Friday the 7th, we had a tag match with Charlotte Flair and Asuka taking on the team of Bailey and the WWE Women's World Champion, one Io Shirai. Io and Charlotte get off to a really fast pace, almost like some high speed style action, which I thought was really good. Charlotte eventually uses her strength and size to kind of break Io down. We get some communication breakdown between Io and Bailey, which is kind of what they're going for here. I think eventually they're going to turn Io face, because everybody just chants for Io in all these matches. So very much like her heel run in Stardom, when not unless she was wrestling Mayu, everybody was chanting for Io. We get some really good back and forth action on Asuka. They get some heat on Asuka. Asuka's able to fire back some strikes. We get a hot tag into Charlotte Flair. Charlotte comes in. She hits her signature offense, the big boot, the clotheslines, the spear, some good stuff there. But then eventually we do see some miscommunication with Asuka and Charlotte Flair. Makes sense. The next day they're in that 3-way with Io for the WWE Women's Championship. Io hits a Meteora to Flair. And then dodges, but then when she does, she eats a big boot from Asuka, and then Asuka takes Bailey down. Bailey goes for the figure 4 on Charlotte. A little taste of her own medicine, but when Charlotte pushes Bailey off, Bailey rams right into Io, taking Io out for the match. Charlotte hits the natural selection for the 3 count. Good match, got some decent amount of time, 3.5 stars. Ultimately, what it was to do is to further along the Bailey storyline with her and Io not getting along all the way, and to put Io's championship in jeopardy at Fastlane. Rob Goodwin, the very next night, we go to Fastlane, and this is an absolutely fantastic match. You're a fan of these three women, which I know that you are, good sir. Definitely watch this match. I will point out that did look like Charlotte Flair was about half a step off in this match, and that's not a detriment to her. It just goes to show you how fast and how good and how crisp Asuka and Io are, because these two really put on a show, considering Charlotte is the most pushed, women's wrestler of all time for WWE, and rightfully so. She moves merchandise. She's great in the ring. She does a great job getting her opponents up. But the fact that Io and Asuka just kind of almost not intentionally, they kind of outwork her. Charlotte just seemed like she was just kind of a half a step off because Io and Asuka were working so fast. Eventually, they do wind up getting their timing down. So what happens is Flair eats the mist 2 seconds in the match. She goes to the outside to get attended on. It basically turns into a one-on-one match with Io and Asuka, which is absolutely fantastic. Io throws these really, really good arm drags at Asuka, but you're giving somebody like Asuka your arm one too many times. Eventually, Asuka takes it. She hits the Joshi dropkick onto Io. They wind up going back and forth with some high-speed style near falls, back and forth for two. Eventually, Charlotte Flair says, enough of this. Comes in, big boots everybody, chops everybody. Io comes in. Io must have been watching her Best of Azumi, my friend, because not only was she doing these fast-paced pinfalls, but in order for her to get the advantage back, she does the La Mystica, but instead of completely ripping Io or Azumi off, she does the La Mystica into the crossface, which I thought was really cool. Io hits the patented springboard dropkick to Asuka. Asuka comes back in the match with her strikes. She actually hits a top rope German suplex onto Io Shirai, which I thought was good. Io hits a moonsault to the outside, and then Charlotte Flair hits her patented moonsault off the turnbuckle to the outside. So really cool seeing Io do the Asai moonsault, and then Charlotte doing the bigger moonsault coming off the post, which I thought was really cool. Eventually, Charlotte though she takes a back seat. She's hit with strikes. He goes to the outside. Asuka and Io kind of have their match again. Asuka goes to whip Io into the ropes, but instead of taking the ropes, she just decides, I'm just going to do a dive. And she does off the Irish whip right onto Charlotte. You didn't even see it coming. It was so fast. Geez. These girls are so good. Again, especially Io, they did a great job highlighting her in this match. They do the Tower of Doom spot, which was really, really cool because you had Io and Charlotte fighting on the top rope. Didn't know which way it was going to go. Eventually, Asuka comes in and dumps everybody over. I thought that was great. Asuka comes in and is able to neutralize Charlotte Flair with the armbar. Charlotte Flair is able to escape the armbar into the figure four onto Asuka. This spot was really cool. So she's in the figure four. You've seen Charlotte Flair. You know she likes to bridge up into the figure eight. She gets halfway up on the bridge in the figure eight, and all of a sudden you see Io come out of nowhere with the Meteor, or the Sonata, whatever you want to call it, and just completely wipes out Charlotte Flair. You didn't even see it. It was great camera work. She gets a near 2 count there, so that was really cool. Eventually, there is a double submission with Io, a crossface, and Charlotte with a Boston Crab onto Charlotte Flair. Charlotte's able to get out. She hits a big spear onto Io and Asuka. Bayley, who was told by Io on the pre-show, don't come to the ring because every time you come to the ring, you mess everything up for me. So Bayley comes to the ring. Everybody in the crowd thinks Bayley's going to cost Io the championship. So Bayley's is kind of there. Io's telling her to get out, distracting her, letting basically Charlotte get up. So Charlotte hits Io with a big boot. She falls off the apron onto Bayley. So now you have this. You're thinking, okay, now it's going to come down because we're about 17 minutes in this match. So to come down to Charlotte and Asuka, Io's going to lose the belt without her even being pinned or submitted because of Bayley distracted Io. They go back and forth. Asuka goes for the Asuka lock. Charlotte does a great job rotating on the Asuka lock, puts the figure four in, locks in the figure eight, and then about a minute into the submission, out of nowhere, so Bayley then distracts the referee. Asuka's tapping. Obviously, the ref doesn't see it because the ref is blinded by Bayley's interference. Io comes off the top rope and absolutely crushes Charlotte Flair as she's in perfect bridge with the beautiful moonsault, which is just crazy to consider the fact that if Io's off just a little bit to the left, she's probably going to land on Charlotte's neck as she's doing the moonsault. But absolutely perfect. Hits the moonsault for a 3 count. Excellent match. I forgot to time it, but I think it got like 17, 18 minutes, which is a really good runtime for these three. 4.25 stars, definitely another match that you need to see. And that's just another banger that Io's been putting on as WWE Women's Champion. She had that one match with Asuka about 2 or 3 weeks ago on SmackDown that got about 20 minutes. And this one was right there as well. Excellent, excellent stuff. And considering the fact that she pinned Charlotte Flair in the middle of the ring, and I think that's what she did in the three-way with her and Rhea Ripley at In Your House for the NXT Championship. I think she pinned Charlotte. I could be wrong, but I know Charlotte was in that match with Rio. So they're doing a really good job getting Io over, and they're having her let her speak a little bit more in these backstage promos to let, the English translate over. Her English is getting obviously significant better. She's having better promos. She's getting a lot of time in that ring. And the fact that they're cheering her, considering the fact that she's supposed to be a heel, I think, maybe it's just my bias because I'm the giant Io Shirai fan that I am. I think that there's a lot of really cool things they can do with Io. But yeah, my friend, when you get a chance, definitely. I didn't see anything else of Fastlane, but definitely go out of your way to see this match with Io, Charlotte, and Asuka. It was fantastic.
I definitely will. And I'm glad that you interrupted me because I actually realised that we have actually got half a card announced for Halloween Dark Night on the 29th of October. Now, I don't know if you've seen this, Matt.
I'm not? No, sir. What do we got?
Right. So, I think straight away you can tell that this is going to be a serious pay-per-view because we start with a Zombie Rumble. So obviously that's going to be won by Zombie Death, who I imagine is pretty much, in tune with this entire pay-per-view. We've got an irregular tag team match, which is basically just a 2-on-1 match. Don Matsumoto and Zap versus Mina Shirakawa. We've then got whoever was under the Halloween mask versus Mirai. It's just a singles match, so all of our worry about their titles doesn't matter. And the same with Mayu. Mayu is going to be taking on Clown 1, 2, and 3 in a coffin 4-way match. And then also, and this is... I know.
Sorry. That's awesome.
This, for me, is just Stardom and Showcase, just on the Halloween
I was going to
theme.
say, this sounds like Stardom and Showcase.
And then we've just got a random Goddess of Stardom Tag League match tagged on. And that's the thing that irritates me. Syuri and Saki Kashima versus Risa Seira and Karumi Hiragi. It's a great match, but it just seems, it's like, oh, we've also got this match on there. Why? Why? Anyway, so that's the card we have announced so far. There apparently will be other matches, but at the moment, this is all that is announced. So I just thought I'd sneak that in before I finish today's episode. I just wanted to say, guys, that July to September was our highest ever quarter in terms of downloads. So thank you to everyone that is supporting the podcast, listening to the podcast, spreading the word about the podcast. We really, really, really do appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so, so much. It brings to an end our podcast. Not forever, just for this week. Don't worry. We'll be back next
You're on
week.
the Halloween theme.
We'll be back next week to talk about the Goddess of Stardom Tag League opening night. But in the meantime, thank you so much for listening, guys. Don't forget, you can check out the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can subscribe anywhere. You can follow us on social media at the Stardom Cast. Follow us on Patreon. Subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/the Stardom Cast. Leave us a 5-star review and a comment if you think we've deserved it on the podcast platform of your choice. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at RealRobGoodwin. Matt Turner, where can they find you and sign us off?
You can find me at the Javits Center this weekend in New York City. I will be the one yelling, bye, boy. Folks, if you want to get a hold of me, Matt Turner OF on the Instagram, the Twitter, the X, and the TikTok as well. If you want to shoot me an email, that's perfectly fine. The StardomCast22@gmail.com is the best way to get a hold of me via email. Folks, we cannot say thank you enough for the fantastic support. Like Rob said, this past quarter was just absolutely fantastic for us, and it seems like the podcast grows and grows every day. I just took a look at the 5-star reviews over on Apple Podcasts, and it seems like it almost doubled in the last 5 or 6 weeks. So thank you so much. We really appreciate that. It helps get the algorithm out, which in return helps get out the fantastic word that is Stardom that we all love so much. And like I said, it's a team effort, folks, because like I always say, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast. Because when we're all together, everybody's different. Everybody's special.